Welcome to Radically Rewired, the show where I fuse science and spirituality to give tangible tips to feel more confident, get more clarity, and live your most authentic and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Nicole Novoselsky, a former 9-to-5 desk job gal turned traveling entrepreneur, energy healer, and brain hacking yogi. This podcast is all about how to stop going through the motions and make the most of your human experience here on this earth. So let's learn how to get radically rewired. Greetings from Medellin, Colombia. I took a little 2-week trip from Guatemala all the way up to the north of Guatemala, into Belize, over to Mexico to fly from Cancun to Medellin, but I made it. So sorry for my little 2-week hiatus. We back and better than ever. We here on the pod. I love that, on the pod. I feel so official. And I love you for being here, because today we're going to talk all about the power of your inner circle and why it's so healing to be surrounded by the right people. So if you're here, you're definitely my kind of people, and I'm so excited to dive in. We're also going to talk about friendship breakups, because I feel like we are so centered around relationship heartbreak breakups, cue all of the love songs, but we don't really talk about friendship breakups. So we're going to talk about who we surround ourselves with and what happens when we start to move on from other people and what that grief and heartbreak is like. So let's start to rewire our brains, shall we? Vámonos! Let's take a little meander down memory lane, shall we? I went to a university that was known for its drinking culture on accident. I made the decision to go to UW-Madison based off of how great of a school it was and how pretty the campus was and the fact that it was on 3 different lakes and how they had a great biochemistry program. Yes, back in the day, I thought I was going to be a biochemist because I loved research. I still do, hence the combo of science and spirituality here on the pod. But side note, I did not end up being a biochemist. I switched my major to the lovely community and nonprofit leadership, where I get to help more people and learn how to be a leader. So that was a great little switch. But little did I know that Wisconsin is a big drinking state. Maybe I lived under a rock. But I realized that if you're from Wisconsin, you're bearing your cold ass winters by popping open a beer. And then in the summers, you're on all your boats on the lakes, drinking a beer, kayaking, whatever it is. But like, you're drinking a lot. It's kind of a big drinking state. Am I right? So UW-Madison ranked #1 drinking school in the nation at some point in time. And I didn't realize how much of a drinking culture it was until I arrived. You know, you hear about it and you're like, yeah, whatever. But most everything was centered around alcohol. Tons of bars to go to, tons of people hosting parties, the game days, including tons of drinking starting at like 7 o'clock in the morning, okay? Lots of pre-games, then pre-games to the pre-games, like pre-games, meaning you drank before you went to the party, and then you drank before you went to the party before the party. Confusing, but basically all you need to know is that you're drinking a lot. I was young and I thought it'd be fun to rave about parties and have stories to tell. And it was fun until eventually I grew out of the drinking culture and I craved deeper connections. I mean, I've always craved deeper connections ever since I was young. I wanted deeper connections rather than drunken late night superficial convos and compliments. When the alcohol wore off, it was like Cinderella's carriage. Everything turned into a pumpkin and everyone's masks went back on. And was I even really that close with any of these people? Could we connect on a deeper level, or was the superficial drinking layer all that I would get? So by my senior year, I wanted to hang out and talk about spirituality, different cultures, the world, and perhaps I'm an old soul. Definitely am an old soul, okay? Because I didn't feel like going out to the bars and getting wasted for 12 hours at a time just to not remember a majority of it the next day. Yeah, 12 hours. They would go so early on game day and then stay out all day. And I just, 1, don't have the stamina for that, and 2, I would rather not. And maybe you're the same, maybe you're different, but when I graduated, this continued into the corporate world, and maybe you're experiencing this now, and it continues even past 20s. I've seen people in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s. It doesn't really end until you make the conscious decision for it to end. Soulful Saga time. So when I was in corporate, we had tons of happy hours. There were tons of watching people live for the weekend and getting drunk Friday and Saturday nights. I felt like everything revolved around getting together and drinking. Yet, I was different, and I would invite people over and we would pull some tarot together, we'd talk about our lives, and those were some of my favorite nights together. Instead of spending tons and tons of money at a bar, it felt really intimate and really close. But hey, that's me, and everyone is different. Maybe you resonate with me. But when I wanted to leave to travel the world, no one in my circle was doing that. So I sought out other people who were doing what I wanted to be doing and hearing from them. Eventually, I left with a one-way ticket to Bali and ended up staying in Indonesia for over 2 years. And some of my friends from home I got even closer to because they were so supportive of me and met me on a new level. And some dropped off because I no longer was a participant in their drinking parties and could no longer relate to me, which is fine. But this doesn't just pertain to college like I was saying. I've seen this time and time again extend to life at any given age and time. So even when I was in Bali, all the way across the world, I watched this pattern play out before my eyes. However, at that point, I was experiencing a total rebirth of my own self, thinking about what kind of life do I want to be living? I wanted to grow my own business. I wanted to be around successful, abundant, self-aware people, people who could talk about deep life things sober. During COVID, I picked an Airbnb that was calling to me. So whenever you're trying to pick Airbnbs when you're traveling, I always go the energetic route. I'm like, which Airbnb is calling to me? And it turns out it was the Airbnb of a therapist, and we lived together for 9 months during lockdown. So I picked well. My energy served me correct, my intuition. We love her. But this therapist, Justine, she recalibrated my nervous system. We had deep chats about life. I was able to talk about my shit without feeling judged. How often can you do that, right? Like normally you go into a therapist's office for that. And luckily it was almost like I was in the therapist's office in my own home, but it felt like a home too. But I was able to communicate effectively and honestly. And I specifically remember one night I had a full-ass breakdown, like in the process of naturally balancing my hormones after going off birth control. And I was navigating a broken heart in a weird relationship dynamic. And she simply just laid on her bed and she let me lay with her. And she held me while I cried, like a merciless cry, like sobbing, so many tears. And I never had that kind of space held for me before. And so I looked around and I was surrounded by people who were growing their businesses, believing in themselves, ordering oysters and Prosecco to celebrate themselves, trusting in the energetics of money, and simply enjoying their lives. I wasn't surrounded by people who were complaining about their jobs and living for the weekend. I was surrounded by people who were soaking up life. And this was crucial to my well-being. Previously, I was surrounded by people spending tons of money on alcohol. I was constantly penny pinching in a scarcity mindset, and it was eye-opening to see how other people lived, to see how abundant people could be, and it started to rub off on me and raise my own vibration. And so they were so joyous, trusting in the universe, so confident on their unconventional paths. And to see this helped rewire my brain, change my brain. Because when we are surrounded by people who are doing things different than us or who are doing things that we want to do, we start to go down that path. So if you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't going down the path that you want to be going, you might actually be blocking yourself to where you want to go. And so I was surrounding myself with people who are using money as an energy expander rather than only viewing it as a currency. And so seeing this, I experiencing it and being in the energy firsthand helped me reshape my brain and give me support when I wanted to loop back into my own scarcity and unworthy patterns. It was helping me change my brain to be like, okay, what do I want to prioritize and what do I want to bring into my life so that eventually I can be spending my money on oysters, right? So why are we talking about all of this? Well, there's a lot of reasons. First, it's important to remember that energy is everywhere. You are constantly playing a role in your environment, and your environment is constantly playing a role on you. Other people's energies are constantly impacting us. So if you're constantly surrounded by people who are complaining and hating their lives, chances are you will drop into that vibration. If you want to be in an abundance of money, surrounding yourself in the energy of people who are abundant helps you shift into that energy. So you probably heard the saying of motivational speaker Jim Rohn that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I'm going to expand on this. You're probably the average income, the average happiness level, and the average vibrational frequency. So the goal of this episode, and we're going to get into it a bit more in our next 2 segments, is to really take a look at the people in your circle and ask yourself if they're hindering your progress or if they're helping you advance it. So now this isn't to say drop everyone cold turkey, bye, peace, bitches. It's to say once you're aware of the friendships you have, you can start to make decisions accordingly. Now, this isn't to say go on LinkedIn and become besties with 5 people way above your current income level. I mean, if that's your MO, be my guest. But it's important to have a well-rounded group, people you can go to for different topics, having different conversations, people you can share your knowledge with and mentors, maybe someone who's a step behind you trying to go on the same path, and then maybe someone who's a step ahead of you who can share their knowledge, and then someone who's on the same journey, right? You want different people who you can go to for different experiences and different conversations. We have a different dynamic with every single person. So someone might be the person you go to coffee with, someone might be your salsa dancing buddy, someone might be just ahead of you in business or just behind you or on a completely different path than you. But your friend group should inspire you to be on the path towards your favorite version of yourself, to help you call in your dreams, your goals, to make you laugh, to celebrate your wins, pull you out of the hole when you're low, and then also maybe join you in the hole and be like, hey, it's okay to be here and we're gonna pull you out the next day and move forward, right? And of course, having a therapist and a coach for some of these things is super helpful. But again, if a friend is sucking the life out of you and they're not actually matching your vibrational frequency, you might want to reevaluate how much time you're actually spending with them, okay? This is simply a check-in to look around at your crew. Are they supporting the present version of you to help get you to where you want to go? Maybe you realize you don't want to spend your weekends drinking as much and then recovering the next day. Or maybe you do, I don't know, whatever it is you want. But it can be simple as having a conversation with someone about how you no longer want to drink as much and you want to be on a different trajectory. And maybe they accept that and maybe they don't. And then you get to choose how you're going to move forward. You can start to protect your energy more because you realize that your friend simply uses you as a space to constantly complain and doesn't return a safe space for you to process, and it's a major energetic drain. Or perhaps you realize, you know what, I want to start going to new events that resonate with me, to meet people on a similar interest level that will elevate me to new vibrational levels. If you want to start your own business, maybe you surround yourself in a group full of entrepreneurs, right? You need to be surrounded by people who are going where you want to go, because that will help you go there too, right? The options are endless, but it doesn't make friendship breakups any less hurtful. When you feel yourself drifting from someone, it can be painful because you've had so many beautiful memories, you've had a deep emotional connection with them, it was a great part of your life, it was a great chapter, and then we question, what did we do, why are we drifting? And a shift that has helped me is simply trusting that I'm heading into a new chapter and new people are coming in to support me. I don't have to necessarily have a huge, ugly falling out with my friends, but I can leave it cordial. You don't necessarily want to put things in a box, but you can just look at your friendships as what they are. Okay, it was a really beautiful time that we had together, but now I'm going somewhere else, so I'm just going to mark that as that chapter, and I'm going to trust that the next chapter of people are coming. And some people expand over one chapter, and some people are in 5 chapters, some people are in 10, some people are lifetime, some people are just there for a little moment to help you get through something. So it's realizing that you'll have different friendships for different things, there'll be different lengths of time, etc. Let's get into our next segment called Neuro Nugget. We're going to talk about the brain. We're going to talk about the brain. Oh my gosh, I love psychology and the brain, and I love energy. So we're combining all of them here in this podcast episodio. Let's talk about the famous Ash conformity test. You might have heard this before, or maybe it will sound familiar, but I will recap it. And it's basically the psychologist Solomon Asch did a bunch of conformity experiments back in the 1950s. And in these experiments, he had a bunch of participants in the same room, and he showed the participants an image of 3 lines of different lengths. Then he asked the participants which lines were the same length. Okay, so it was like he had A line, B line, C line. And A line was clearly the same length as C, but the participants were staged and they would say, nope, actually B and C are the same length, when clearly B is way shorter than C and A and C are the same length. And so this was a huge twist because the participants, who were then actors and staged in the experiment, were saying B was the same as C, or whatever it was, right? They were intentionally giving the wrong answers. And then the actual participant would then get noticeably confused. Like, okay, y'all, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because you clearly are wrong. But why are you saying that this line is the same as this when you clearly know that the other one is the same? They wanted to see if the participant would conform. And so there are a lot of people in the room, and a lot of people would say this. I want to note that if it's only one other person, you probably will argue with the other person and be like, no, do you see this? This is wrong. However, when it's a big group of people, when it's like more than 3, most of the time, the participant would go with the group consensus, even when it contradicted their own perception of reality. Whoa. So what does this mean? It's so fascinating. We often go against what we know to be true in order to conform to the larger majority of society. Why do we conform? Ash found that social pressure, fear of ridicule, and even the belief that others must be right. How can I trust my own self? They all must be right. If they're all saying the same thing, then of course they're right, which makes us abandon our own judgment. And as humans, we have such a fear of abandonment because we have a higher chance of survival in community. Think about it. Back in the day, people worked together in community to make sure everyone was fed, everyone was healthy, someone got the water, someone hunted, someone gathered, someone took care of the children. And if you were left on your own, there was a higher chance you'd die off because doing it all on your own was way freaking harder. So when you feel abandoned, you may feel like you're literally going to die. This has happened to me. Whenever I feel abandoned in relationships or friendships, I'm like, my nervous system gets all out of whack. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it literally feels like a part of you is dying off. And this can happen when you get left out of the friend group, outing, or maybe work people turn against you, or you feel rejected by a potential love interest. Feeling abandoned can be so disheartening. So to ensure our survival, love, and safety, we just go with what the majority is doing. And so this research sheds light on the powerful influence of group dynamics on individual behavior, revealing how we sacrifice our own truth to avoid standing out. So next time you find yourself agreeing with the crowd, take a moment to reflect on whether it's truly what you believe or if you're simply succumbing to the pressures of conformity. And if you feel like you're going against yourself and you're abandoning yourself, that is a sign, well, maybe it's time to find a new group of people where going with myself is the norm. So for example, if everyone's drinking and you feel like you're abandoning yourself and you feel like, okay, well, this is just the norm, then maybe it's time to find a group of people who are not drinking. And then you actually fit into that crowd and you don't feel abandoned, right? So let's get into how you can actually start to incorporate this into your everyday life. Let's get into brain hack of the day. Brain hack of the day. So, a brain hack you can do is I just want you to find some time to yourself, grab a journal, strip yourself of the conditioning of your family, of your friends, of everyone, and simply sit with yourself, okay? And I want you to journal and think about, what does your perfect life look like? What are you doing? Where are you? Who are you surrounded by? Then start to ask yourself, are the current people in your life hindering you from being the best version of yourself? Or are they helping you get there? Are they supportive of your dreams? Do they think they're silly? Are they living in abundance and finding joy in life, or are they complaining all the time? Do you want to complain all the time? Because if you do, then maybe they're perfect for you, right? Or do you want to level up and find people who are really going to support you and help you be the best version? Do these people fully accept you as you are, or do you feel the need to abandon yourself and conform? If they are hindering you, you don't necessarily have to wipe your hands clean of them and say, bye, peace, like I was saying. The action step would be, well, instead, can you just start to put yourself in new situations to find different people who are on the same path that you want to go to? Because there's a higher chance you'll get to your goal if you surround yourself with people already in that frequency or on the path to be in that frequency. Otherwise, you're getting pulled down and conforming to what others want for you instead of living your own life. So, if you want to be surrounded by people who have your best interest in mind, this is why I've created, well, there's many reasons why I've created my Freedom Fast Track membership, but this is for people who are wanting to achieve their deepest goals and feel like they have an action plan to get there, raise your vibration, change your mindset, rewire the brain in order to really, truly get you to your dreams and your goals. No dream is too big. I will sit there and support you and get you to where you want to be, and you have a whole community of people who are doing that as well. So if you're interested in the Freedom Fast Track membership, take a look in the description. And if you want to be in my one-on-one VIP Freedom Fast Track Accelerator, definitely take a look at the link below as well. There might be a wait list, but I have some spots open as of right now as this airs, but it will fill up soon. So definitely take a look at that. Look in the description to join my memberships and get to where you want to be. You deserve to have the life that you want to live. You are never stuck. You can have whatever life you want. I promise you, I guarantee you, and we're going to get you onto that path if you choose to do so. Beautiful. I'd love to have you in there. So we've talked about a lot today. So let's fast track it up and recap it. Fulfillment fast track. Your circle of influence. Dive into the impact that your inner circle is having on your journey, because it's so important to understand the people around you are going to influence and impact you a ton. So make sure you're in an environment and surrounded by people who are supporting you on your journey instead of pulling you down into their own BS, okay? Navigating friendship breakups. Often friendship breakups get overlooked and they can be really painful because they're holding a lot of emotional charge. What we can do is simply give gratitude to that friendship and trust that in our next chapter we step into, we will also be given wonderful people who will help us on our journey as well. We talked about the ASH conformity test. This is the fascinating study of how participants conformed to the group even though they knew the group was wrong. So we abandon ourselves sometimes in order to conform. Really, really, really interesting. So this goes on to say we must choose wisely, surrounding ourselves with those who lift us higher to where we want to be, and they should inspire us and support our aspirations and nudge us closer to our dreams instead of pulling us down into the abyss. So last things last, our brain hack of the day was to take a moment to assess who are the people in our lives that are really pulling us toward where we want to go, and who are the people who are holding us back. Again, you don't have to drop them cold turkey, but maybe you start to set some boundaries, and maybe you start to spend less time with them and you spend more time looking to hop into that new chapter with this new group of people pulling you to where you want to go instead of pushing you back. And a great way to start that would be to join my Freedom Fast Track community of people who are all striving to get towards their goals and magnetizing in their dream lives. So we'd love to have you in the membership. Take a look at that in the description. Yay! Well, thank you so much for joining me on Radically Rewired today. To continue this beautiful journey of exploration and self-discovery with me, hit that subscribe button, sign up for my newsletter to get notified about my newest episodes. You can sign up with the link in the description. And also, if you enjoyed this podcast, I would be so appreciative if you could share it with a friend and write a smashing review. Your reviews, kind words, and shares help create a positive ripple effect in the world to expand to more people to have the opportunity to take on these lessons and start to magnetize in their own dreams. So it only takes a few seconds to help push this out, and I would be so grateful for you. I am thrilled that you're here to take another step towards living a life that feels extraordinary, and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. This episode was made possible by the generous support of my sponsor, Amplify Your Voice. And for more detailed episode notes, check the description. It's got all the goodies for you there, lots of freebies, lots of ways to keep rewiring your brain. Each episode of Radically Rewired is a step towards getting off of autopilot and soaring towards your dreams. It is so possible, and I cannot wait to continue to help get you to where you want to be on this transformative journey together. I love you, and until next time, keep rewiring, keep thriving, keep shining. Much love. Bye.